So now that we've talked a little bit about those older, theories of leadership, let's talk about ones that are perhaps more modern, more contemporary, and go from there. There's three main ones we're going to talk about: leader-member exchange theory, implicit leadership theory, and transformational leadership theory. We've already sort of mentioned transformational leadership already, so yeah, I just put it in the beginning too. So here we go. These new leadership theories really are focusing on trying to understand how a leader can take an organization just to a new level, right, a new place. Help them to achieve motivation, commitment, dedication. I like the commitment part. Here in this 21st century, commitment is a hard one to get out of a worker. It's just much different, empowering, as we've sort of talked before. But the leader-member exchange theory is actually pretty interesting. It's leaders have relationships with employees and personality styles, etc. And so some employees, the boss has a good relationship, some employees they don't. And depending upon the type of relationship between, are the subordinates in group or out group and stuff. And so what happens is that if there's a better relationship with the leader, then what happens is that you get much better outcomes. The quality of the relationship with the boss can have a very positive effect, right? Clearly, good quality relationships have more frequent communication. Good quality relationships predict good outcomes. I mean, it's all there. But of course, part of the problem is that the leader-member relationship is really a function of, well, partly the personalities and things in nature between the bosses and the employees, but gender similarity. Fact is, if it's a male boss, and male employees are more likely to have a quality relationship because they're more likely to, go out to the bar after work or something, or go golfing. Okay? Number of subordinates. So a boss that has many, many, many subordinates can't possibly have good relationships with all of them, right? Or the workload of the employees, resources, things of this nature. So the work in this leader-member exchange theory has been finding that the employee attitudes and organizational outcomes in oh so many ways can be predicted by the relationship between the leader and the boss. I like implicit leadership theory myself. This is an interesting notion that a leader's effectiveness is based upon the perceptions of the workers. Okay, it doesn't have to be grounded in truth. The perceptions of the workers are what really counts. And so what we find is, like from cognitive psychology, we talk about a schema or a prototype or something. It's like a mental representation we have, okay? And so, I think I may have mentioned this at one other point, but you have a schema for a restaurant or something, and it involves salt and pepper on the table or something. And so now when you have thoughts about restaurants, it's going to involve salt and pepper and stuff. And so a schema will guide your thinking and will influence your memories and all kinds of and behaviors. Well, in this implicit leadership theory, we have a schema of a good boss. Okay, what does a good boss look like? And so what happens is that a subordinate will perceive, if they perceive their, see, here's the thing, in fact, it's under my head. It's here. This is a summarization. An employee has a prototype of a good leader, which involves a few behaviors. If a boss is labeled a good boss, then all of a sudden everything will be judged positively. If a boss is labeled a bad boss, then everything will be judged negatively. It's just positive and negative based on this. So if the boss represents your schema of good boss, then everything is golden. And if it represents a bad one, then everything bad. In fact, here is a model, okay? And so you've got an effective leader prototype, which perhaps is intelligent, communicated. I don't know. I mean, everybody's got, of course, their own prototype, right? And so now the leader comes in box B, right? And these are the behaviors and traits that the leader comes in with. And so now you're going to prototype match. And so now what will happen is you'll have an evaluation of the leader, right? Oh, Jared is an effective leader. And now all of a sudden, all ratings will be based on this global impression. Okay? And in fact, yeah, look at this. I missed it when we went. Look at that. Your prototype of a good leader is 4 things. Jared's behavior is 3 things. But Jared matches. Later on, is Jared a self-starter? Yes, of course he is. He's an effective leader, and effective leaders are self-starters. Therefore, Jared is a self-starter. Bada bing, okay? So even more important, people that use global impression to describe the leader and recall behavior and traits, and they make a lot of errors. Of course they do, okay? So it becomes a problem. Very much a problem. Very much a problem. Very cool. Transformational leadership theory. As we had said, a transformational leader interacts with subordinates in such a way to inspire, right? To get them to achieve things they could never have done on their own. Whereas a transactional leadership style is more like based on contingencies. You know, you do this, I'll give you that. And so it's like, it's just like reinforcement theory or something, okay? And in fact, look at that, reinforcement. The subordinate is rewarded for meeting the leader's expectations, okay? And so transformational leaders, and again, this is the way I perceive it. A transformational leader is one that puts intrinsic reinforcement or intrinsic motivation is what I'm trying to say. Transformational leaders will create intrinsic motivation in the workers, whereas a transactional leadership style is much more extrinsically based. Just as a side note from basic learning theory, somebody that is intrinsically motivated will continue to work even will continue to produce even in the absence of external rewards, whereas extrinsically motivated people basically stop paying me and I will stop doing the stuff, okay? And so you need to keep it going. So transformational leaders, as we said, they inspire motivation. They can create situations that stimulate your mind, that look at you as an individual. They can inspire, right, more than motivate. What am I saying under here? Commitment, yeah, great. Yeah, and so transformational leaderships usually leads to better motivation and performance and outcomes, okay? But even a good transformational leader does need to have some transactional behaviors, because you can inspire, but you still need to say you got to start work at 8, right? So you need to be transactional to some degree, can't be completely. So in the 1996 presidential election, it was Clinton versus Bob Dole, I believe. And so what happened was perceptions of transformational leadership. So they went out to a bunch of voters and they looked at and they asked them questions to establish who do you think is a more transformational leader, Bob Dole or Bill Clinton? And lo and behold, those that viewed Bill Clinton as the more transformational said, I'm going to vote for him, and did vote for him. Okay? However, transformational leaders can create 2 different outcomes. You can empower, right? You've installed your vision, instilled your vision. You didn't install a vision, you instilled a vision. And they're self-directed, and that's great. But transformational leaders can create such a dependence upon the leader. In the leader's absence, I don't know what to do anymore, okay? So transformational leadership isn't necessarily like the be-all and the end-all. All right, so we have one more little video to go through for this leadership topic, and we'll get to that, in a couple minutes.